Baba ngiziletha kuwe. Baba, key, is it the right one? Baba ngizitho. Baba ngiziletha kuwe. Ungumsizi wena. Ngangizithanda kuwe. Ngingayanga phela namhlanje na ngiyakholwa uJesu ngifele wachitha igazi lakhe ukungikhulula ngiyakholwe dodaneni engiphamandlayo konke ukweswela kwami kugcwaliswa yiyo namhlanje. Wachitha igazi lakhe ukungikhulula. Izoleni umqalisiwo ukholwa kwami ngivuse amehlo mangamuke liyisipho sami ngiphiliswe namhlanje na ngiyakholwa uJesu ngifele wachitha igazi lakhe. Let's do it one more time. Ukungikhulula namhlanje na ngiyakholwa uJesu ngifele wachitha igazi lakhe ukungikhulula. Amen. Amen. Let's do number 131. Can you allow me just to do the first and the last one? A couple of songs I wanted to cover as well. I like this number 208. Hey, it's an odd one. We like to sing it when we come in. The preachers come in. I want us to actually do the whole song, number 208, but I need some time. So this number 131, can we just do the first and the last one? Mangifuze uJesu. Which one? Mangifuze uJesu to Mangifuze uJesu yona inkosi yami vuma umsindisi wami esehlale kimi mangifuze uJesu kulole liswe phansi ngiswele oko moya hlala lana mimsi disi. The last one. Mangifuze uJesu ngiphila nsuku zonke ngithanda ukuphumula endaweni ethulile angibe nokukholwa hlala nami msindisi. Amen. Amen. Okay, let's try that number 208 if you don't mind. Number 208. Very nice one. That's not the one they're going to come and win. I just want that song. It's nice. Tulani, Tulani, Tulani. Just the first and the last one. Beautiful song. Tulani, 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 Guya, Yenyezwa, Tulani, Ni nasi say sweet Nyate elu nyonyo baikosi lapa Nyate Here's the last one. Tulani, Tulani, oh, Tulani, Tulani, Sili. Beautiful. Very nice, eh? Very nice. Let's do number 52. Probably this is the last one. And then they're going to come in. Number 52. Nice rejoicing song. We'll do the whole 3 stanzas. Number 52. Wozamthombo wesibusiso. Wozamthombo. Okay, if it's low, we'll take it a bit higher in the next verse. Ne? Wozamthombo to. Wozamthombo wesibusiso wena wakho imifula eyomusa ifanelu kubongwa ngifundisu uhlonipha umusa wakho kimi eyamenhle zeyoyophe ngothando lwakho kimi mina ngezo sifunela ilitshelo kuphepha ngomsa wakho ngothembela ekufike nekhaya uJesu wangingenisa emhlambini owakhe engozini ngasindiswa ngalo igazi lakhe ngineca elikhulu ngomusa owangipha luku luka Kristu ungibuyi senamhla ngosinyise sebubi ngithoba phambi kwakho nansi inhliziyo yami beka uphawu lwakho. Amen. Let's stand. Dumisani o Jehovah.
Siyabonga uNkulunkulu amandla osinikeze wona. Sibonga Jehova ukusihawukela nokusizwela. Siphakathi kwendlu yakho sicela wena ukhulume nathi. Nkosi Jesu siqhube phakathi kwawo wonke amalingo bese uyasindisa ngenxa kaJesu Kristu Nkosi. Amen.
I greet you all in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. I greet you all in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. It is good to be in the house of the Lord. Firstly, I'd like to welcome our visitors. We are happy that you guys have come to worship with us today. We have a couple of visitors that the names were taken off. But if it happens that your name is not here, we'll be really happy for you to stand with the others. We have Henry Masuku from Kempton Park. May you please stand. We have the Jefu family from Notmead. Okay, they're there. We've got Lumgile Dlamini from Kempton Park. And we have Ayanda Hadebe from Barberton. And is there anyone else that we forget to take the name of, even if they are little angels? And what does the church say? I'm going to give today's announcements. The TLC will be having a district department promotion day on the 1st of February 2020 at St. David High School. Pastor Nkambula will be conducting a training of our local church officers on the 26th of January, which is tomorrow, at 10 a.m. All the 2020 church officers and their committee members are requested to attend this important meeting. All new church board members are invited to Tembisa South on the 2nd of February 2020 by the new district NGD. Members not present today, it's Pathfinders and Adventurers. They're having an investiture program. Elders, children's, church clerks are at the stewardship training. Mam Tindi is not here as well. Bomelelo, Govien, Omelemo, Luazitepo, and Eddie are ushers at the stewardship training. We are going to have lunch. I hope you all come and dine with us. We also have an afternoon program that will start at 2:30. May we all be blessed.
I greet the church in Jesus' name, amen. Kumnandi Walana? Okay. Today I'll be your MC, and I heard you guys singing hymn 131, and we were very much inspired. So we'll all stand and start with hymn number 131.
Mangifuze uJesu, mangifuze uJesu. Two. Mangifuze uJesu, yona inkosi yami, vuma Indi sewa ese atale kimi mangifu se uchesu kulole iswe pansi iswele ogo moya hala lana mimsi desi na kukhala inyoni haina yengo musa ebone singe ziwa geqiniso gezwa when usikela yami haze ayiko bise ngithanda ngibe gcwele hlala lana mimsindisi mangifuse uJesu ngiphila nsuku sonke ngithanda ukuphumla endaweni ethulile ngibengozelwe busha ngentando yakho Jesu hangibe nokukholwa hlala lana mimsindisi.
The church be seated. Good morning, church. I would like to greet the church in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. The book of Malachi that we all know has been telling us or has been encouraging us to give back what belongs to God. And I'm not going to be reading the whole book because we all know about it. But there are very few touch points that I'm going to talk about that is also going to be touching your souls as well. God says, if you pay or if you give back your tithe, I will open the windows of heaven. I will pour out all the blessings to you. There shall be no room enough to receive. These are more powerful words. But again, at the same time, God is not obliging us. You're not obliged, but it's the right thing to do. There's a chapter that I'm going to take from 2 Corinthians 9, verse 7 up to 8. The heading says, Motivations for Giving. It says, remember this. The person who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. And the person who sows generously will also reap generously. 7, it says, each person should do as he decided in his heart. I like this word. As he has decided in his heart. Not reluctantly or out of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. God loves a cheerful giver. This is the right thing to do. I don't need to be asking you, I'm not obliging you. The church is not obliging you to give, but God is saying, with your cheerful heart, please offer to God. Let's all kneel as we pray. Almighty God in heaven, we thank you so much, Lord, for giving us the Sabbath. We thank you so much for giving us all this wonderful day that we managed to converge and pray and praise your name. For you have even said, nobody should be able to stay at home because you cannot be able to receive the Holy Spirit when you're just standing alone in the corner, but you need to be together with the congregation. We thank you so much for giving us all the families. We thank you for all the blessings that we have received, some of the blessings that we cannot even count. But I ask you, Lord, remind us so that we can be able to count all the blessings that we have received. Lord, as we are just about to start, please make our hearts contrite so that we understand and listen to the voice that you have prepared for us. And I'm asking all these things, Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Let's do number 111. Beautiful song. Asinasi hlobo nje ngoJesu nasinye asikho kakho ngasusa izifo zonke namunye kakho qa uyaza sisinhluphu Jesu wosiho limihla yonke asinasi hlobo nje no Jesu nasinye asikho kakopaka mileyo njengaye namunye kakhoqa akakhotho bekile njengaye. Amen. Namunye uyazazi izinhluphu osiholayo sihole mihla yonke asinazi hlobo nje nasinye asikho asikiskhathi engekho yena nasinye asikho nobusuku uthando lungenamunye akukho is done. There's not a friend like a lowly Jesus. No, not one. No, not one.
May we pray? Lord Jesus, thank you so much for giving us opportunity to give back the tithe. We ask you to bless those who could not be able to do it today and those who have managed to do it. We are asking all the things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Good morning, church.
Amen.
Good morning, church.
Amen.
It is a good thing to be in the house of the Lord. And I'm glad that I am in the year 2020. But though we're in this year of 2020, which is a blessing, but most of us have come with different challenges of life. It doesn't mean that 2020 has brought something new unto us. I may say, most of us, 2020 is just increasing our misery life. Therefore, it's a need as children of God, as we had 10 days of fasting and praying, calling for the Holy Spirit to take control of our lives of this 2020. And two, as his children, we know that we anchor on his promises. Therefore, I'm taking to, as the time for worship, special prayers, James chapter 5, verses 13 to 15. And then I'll read Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, 8, and 9. Then after we're going to pray. I'm reading in your hearing. James chapter 5, verse 13. Is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing psalms. 14. Is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. 15. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. May good Lord bless his reading his word this morning. Amen.
Amen.
I'm going to jump to Matthew chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7, verse 7. Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, I said up to 9 or 10, if God leads me. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and it shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocks it shall be opened. 9. Or what man is there of you, whom if his son asks bread, will we give him a stone? Or if he asks a fish, will we give him a serpent? The speed reading that I should read up to 11. If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father, which is in heaven, give good things to them that ask him? May God bless the reading of his words this morning. Amen. It is, according to the words which I've read, there are two important things. That it is faith which opens the windows of heaven. And it is you and me coming to him who has got everything, who can unlock which is unlockable, who can heal who is cannot be held, who can uplift your life, which man cannot lift it up. It's only if you go to him, it's when things can happen. Without going to him, nothing will happen unto us. So since we've come to this house of worship, let's go to the Master. Let's come to Jesus and put our burdens unto him, our requests, and he has promising, ask and shall be given. And the question was asked in James, is among you sick? Let's ask elders of the church and to pray for him, and you shall be healed. That's a promise. So is anyone among you who is sick? Feel in your heart, or I would ask, you can stand as we are going. I'm calling him Elder Shibubuze, and I are going to pray. If there's anyone amongst us who is feeling not well, he can stand as we pray. Okay. We can sing hymn number 89 as we are calling everyone to worship, to prayer. We are kneeling. My God and my Father, my Creator, my Redeemer, a God who was, a God who is, a God who will be forever. We are coming for thee this morning on your holy Sabbath, saying thank you for the gift of life, which we don't even deserve it, because we are full of sinful acts. Lord, we are coming to thy throne of mercy and grace this morning. Lord, looking back to what we have done to one another and unto you, Lord, it's not worthy to be called your children. But since you sent your Son, Jesus Christ, who came and died on Calvary, he died not the righteous, but sinners like us. Therefore, Lord, we are privileged to come to thy throne of mercy and grace this morning, asking for the forgiveness of our sins, Lord. Lord, we know we are not worthy, but we are worthy, Lord, at the same time because of the blood of Jesus. That said, whoever believes in him will never perish and have everlasting life. With that confidence, Lord, we are coming to you this morning, that we have seen as we are in this church, we have looked at us and see almost everyone is not fine. There's no one who can claim himself to be 100% right or fit. We are therefore, Lord, submitting ourselves this morning. Lord, whatever is wrong in each one of his or her body this morning, in the name of Jesus, may you hear us. We have no doubt in your power. As we said in your Bible, ask and shall be given. At this time, Lord, we're asking for healing power to come unto us and heal our children in this church. May it be so, Lord, as we'll be coming out of this church today, everyone might feel that I've been touched by Jesus. And whatever sickness I had has been healed. We sometimes have sicknesses we didn't know that we are sick. But you know, feel sorry for us and feel it for us and heal us, Lord. There are some have got challenges of employment, which they're hoping this 2020 will give them good results by finding some employment. May you grant them, Lord. Some, Lord, we have challenges in our families. 2020, I think that maybe this year will be a good one. But it will never be good unless we come unto you, Lord. We are therefore, Lord, asking that may you make our families connected unto you and make our families happy with our children. Lord, some children are struggling at school and are feeling that this 2020 will bring joy by children passing well in their schools. Lord, we're asking, Lord, without asking this from you, this will never happen. Whatever coming to you, Lord, that may you give necessary intellect power, knowledge and wisdom to our children, so that when they're at school, they may excel in what they're doing. Lord, we feel 2020 will bring good tidings to our children who are involved in bad dealings, like smoking, drinking, Lord. Lord, we are coming again unto you this morning, that may you feel pity for us, Lord, that these children are given by you as gifts. Whatever asking them, Lord, can you feel pity for us and for them, that they must cease from these bad habits, that, Lord, they must know that there's a God in heaven. We have tried laboring day and night for these kids to be good children. But because of the peer pressure and the friends are meeting where they were, they engage in bad habits. Lord, may you teach them that you are there and you can be able to defeat or challenge everything which can come through them and be faithful to what they're doing. Lord, we thank you for hearing our prayers this morning, and may you bless our church as we worship you in your holiday. For this I pray in the name of Jesus, my Lord and my Savior. Amen.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for your love. We thank you, O God, for you are our shelter in time of storm. We thank you, God, for you are our comforter in time of pain. For you are our Savior when we have fallen. We have seen this, Father, as you are hanging on the cross, when your blood flows, but that was for our sake, that we be revived and restored and co-heir of heaven again. Heavenly Father, we come before thee. As we kneel before your throne, we give our hearts to you, that all that we need, our supplications, we put them before you, because you are the only living God that we know can deliver us from all our challenges. Father, we face different challenges in our day to day, and Father, we want the Holy Spirit to guide us and give us strength, that through all temptations that are put in front of us by the devil every day, let the Holy Spirit create a wedge around us like what you did in Job, Father. That, Father, we will be able to be victorious for all these challenges. Father, we pray for those who have challenges of finance, beginning of this year where they don't know what to do next. But we really want you to appear to them to show them, I am who I am. for I am here for you. Father, we pray for the children that have just started school this week. To say, Father, be with them and give them wisdom. Give them knowledge and understanding. Give them strength that they study their work. Father, we pray as a church that you unite us, that as united as one, we will be able to take gospel out to those who are in need, Father. We pray for those who are sick, that, Father, you have shown us that you have a long arm healing hand that can touch even deeper than where doctors cannot even see. And Father, we pray for your miracle that touch us, touch our flesh and soul where it is broken, where it's deteriorating, restore it with the healing power. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
At this point in time, we'll invite our little angels for their children's ceremony. May all the little ones come up front as we sing hymn number 7 slowly for them.
Abantwana abancane bathanda umhlengi balekuku uJehova owabo menzi njengazoe kanyezi kukhanya ucele ngobuhle bayo phakazi.
I would love to greet the Church of God in the wonderful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. I would love to greet the children in the wonderful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. How are you guys? You're fine. All right, that's good. Before we have our sermon, we will pray. Let's close our eyes. Let's close our eyes and pray. Father in heaven, thank you for this wonderful day that you have given unto us, O God. Father, as we are about to listen to our sermon, O God, may everything that will be said in the sermon be coming from you, O God, and may it dwell in our hearts forever. In your name I pray, amen. Amen. Right. Today in our class, we're learning about creation, right? For those who are in the class, we're learning about creation. Can we all see? We're learning about creation, that God created everything, right? We started from day 1. Day 1, what did God create? What did God create on day 1?
The sun.
Sun, right? Good. And on day 2, what did God create? Yes.
The water.
Yes, he separated the waters, right? The other waters were above and the other waters were here below, right? The ones that were below, we called them the sea. And the ones that are above, the
Sea.
it's the clouds. Right. On day 3, what did God create? Someone tell me. The fruits. What else?
Fruits.
Fruits, yes. What else? Look here.
The fruit.
Yes, and the flowers and trees, right? Then, on day 4, what did God create?
Moon and stars.
Moon and stars, right? Yes. Then on day 5, what did God create? Specifically, what did God create on day 5? The sharks,
The fishes.
the fishes,
And birds.
and the birds, okay? Right. Then on day 6, what did God create?
The lion.
Yes, what else?
And the animals.
The animals. What else did God create on day 6? What else? Yes, which animals?
Giraffes.
Giraffe,
Rhino.
rhino,
The elephant.
elephant, specifically?
A tiger.
Tiger, yes. Right, so he created animals. Then on that very same day, God created Adam and Eve. Who did he create? Adam and Eve. So he took the soil. Do you know soil? Yes, that dirty soil outside when you play and you get so dirty, right? He took the soil and he formed a person. Can you make a person from that soil? Can you? Oh, that's wonderful. All right, so God did that. He took the clay and he created a person. That person's name was Adam, right? After creating Adam, he breathed into Adam. Because now it can't just be soil, right? And you say that's a person. So he had to breathe into Adam. Then he became a person, right? Then after creating Adam, who did he create? He created Eve, right? Right. So today's story is about Adam and Eve and what they did, right? And the sin that they committed in the Garden of Eden. Which garden was it? The Garden of
Adam.
Eden. Okay, Eden. Yes. So, right, as they were in the garden, are we listening, Tani? As they were in the Garden of Eden, it must have been a very beautiful place with all the trees, all the flowers, you know, everything that is beautiful in the Garden of Eden. Can you see Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden? Can you see them? Specifically, can you see Adam and Eve? Yes, right. They were in the Garden of Eden. Right, then one day, as Eve was moving around the Garden of Eden, you know, seeing all the beautiful trees, all the flowers, all the fruits, then she got to this one tree, which was the forbidden tree. God had told them never to touch that tree. God told them to what? To never touch the tree, ne? The tree had fruits, beautiful fruits, right? While she was there, what did she see? What's this thing here? A snake, ne? A snake is a very scary thing. I'm scared of it, right? She saw a snake. That snake was Satan, ne? On the tree. Can you imagine? It must have been a scary thought, right? Then while she was there, then Satan was like, "Hello, Eve. How are you, Eve?" Right? Then as she was there, then Satan was like, "So I heard that the Lord said, you must not eat of the fruit of this tree." What did the devil say? He said, "I heard that God said, you mustn't eat this fruit. Is that true?" Then Eve said, "Yes, that's true. God said we mustn't eat this fruit. He said we mustn't even touch the tree." Then Satan was like, "No, man, that's not true. This fruit is very delicious. You guys must try it." And Eve said, "No, God said if we eat the fruit of this tree, we will die. Yes, and it will be over for us. We will die." Satan's like, "No, that is not true. You will not die. The truth is, if you eat this tree, You will become like God. You know, who doesn't want to become like God? Everyone wants to become like God, ne? So then Eve was like, well, if that is true, I want to become like God, then I will eat the fruit of this tree. Shame. That was the sin. She was not supposed to do it. She took the fruit of the tree and ate it. After eating it, then she gave it to, who did she give it to? No, she gave it to Adam, ne? Yes, because it was the two of them. Right, then she gave it to Adam. Adam also ate the fruit. It must have been a very delicious fruit. After eating the fruit, then God called them. Adam, Eve, where are you? What did God say? Adam and Eve, where are you? Ah, shame. I'm sure they were hiding because they knew that what they did was wrong. They must have been hiding under some trees, under some, I don't know where. They were hiding. Then God said, did you eat of the forbidden fruit? Then Eve said, but it's the serpent, the snake that told me to eat this fruit. It's the one that led me to eating this fruit. Then Adam was also like, it's Eve who gave me this fruit, right? They started blaming each other. No, it's not me. No, it's her. It's him. They started blaming each other because what they did was wrong. Then because of that, what did God do to them? God then chased them out of the Garden of Eden. Was that a nice thing? It wasn't, ne? God chased them. Imagine, out of such a beautiful garden, out of such a nice place. Then God said, because of what you did. Can you see them? Where's that picture? Right. God said, because of what you did, I will chase you out of the Garden of Eden. Can you see there was even an angel? Do you see the angel? With a sword. Do you see the sword? Do you see? It had flames to make sure that they don't come back into the Garden of Eden. Right. Now what does this teach us? This teaches us to not be naughty, right? It's the same at home. When your mother says, "Spesihle, don't do this," and you go on to do it, what should your mother do? She should punish you, ne? Yes, and punishment is not nice, right? When your mother punishes you, it's not nice. So today we learn that we should be good girls and boys, and we must never be naughty. Because when we are naughty, what will our parents do? They will punish us, okay? Are we listening? All right, let's pray. Let's close our eyes and pray. Father in heaven, we thank you for the lesson that we've just had. Father, please help us to be good boys and girls. Father, help us to obey our parents all the time. In your name we pray, amen. Thank you. We can go and sit down.
We love your story, yes we do. We thank you, yes we do. So don't forget to come again, Oh yes, to tell us more. We love your story, yes we do. We thank you, yes we do. So don't forget to come again, Oh yes, to tell us more.
That was a beautiful sermon by our children. And on day one, that bright thing that you were seeing on the picture, it was not the sun, it was the light. And then in day 4, that's when the sun came in. Okay? At this time, I'll introduce the panel up front. On my far left is Elder Masango. He did the prayer for us. And then followed by Obab Tibade. He did the offertory reading. And I'm Felix Ndebele. And the lady who did our children's sermon is Noma Kumalo. And today's bread will be dished by Elder Dladla. May we all stand and sing hymn number 52.
Number 52. Woza mthombo wesibusiso. 2. Woza mthombo wesibusiso wena wokudunyiswa emefula eyomusa efanelu kubongwa ngifundisa ukuhlonipha umusa wakho kimi eyamenhle zeyoyophe ngothando lwakho kimi mina ngezo zifunela ilijelo kuphepha ngomsa wakho ngothembela ekufike nekhaya uJesu wangingenisa emhlambini owakhe engozini ngasindiswa ngalo igazi lakhe nginecala elikhulu ngomusa owangipha vumelupho lunga Kristu ungibuyise namhla ngosingise sebubini ngithoba phambi kwakho nansi inhliziyo yami bheka uphawu lwakho.
Dumelang. Happy Sabbath. Amen. We love to greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. I'm so glad that I'm in the house of the Lord. Amen. Ikhona ingoma iculwayo ithi I'm so glad. Come on, Zulu. Yeah. Isho njalo. It's a powerful song, but nevertheless, all of us were welcome. And we love also to thank God to give us the opportunity of being around, and also to give us opportunity to repent so that we may see His kingdom. Now, we may say we have been saved, we didn't meet accident, we did not die, and we think also that those who are dead, maybe they've done something wrong. Maybe when we are not in accident, we're so careful. It is true that God's message is being given to us. Now, one thing very important in our life, or in a life of a steward, you know, we always, for the last 40 or 20 years or 50 years so, we're what I noticed, there's one subject which is very difficult, which is also well boycotted by members of the church when it's said it's a day of stewardship. I wish that that can be removed. I'm happy again, they say this day it's a stewardship emphasis. Now, to be a steward is somebody who's been entrusted with the belongings of somebody. Amen. And it's our belief number 21 in our church. It's number 21. I'm correct? Thank you. Number 21. I don't know why it's so far or in the middle, because from 21 there are 7 last to make it 28. But nevertheless, as we have been called, as God created us, He has given us ample everything to look after. Yes, He has given the bodies that we have to look after. He has given the nose that we have to look after, wipe it when some stuff are not correct. And God, when He created, I understand in each day or chapter of the creation, He says it is good. Hello? Yeah. It is good. What you have, what you are, it is. The problem is one. Our subject is, it's about heart, and it is good that it's been created for the body and for us. Now the problem is that we don't want to acknowledge what is good. Okay. The problem is that we don't want to acknowledge what is good. You know, God, after creating the world and the people, there came a time when He felt upset or angry, furious to what He has created. And He instructed Noah to build an ark, another saving mode, that the people, those who believe, those their hearts are in the heart of God, or they are for God, to be safe. Now, there was a rain which was never been there before, and people were amazed. Lots and lots and lots of people, animals, every living things which were not in the ark, destroyed or perished. Now, while I was doing Ambo Standard 5 for Standard Bani forms, there we see a picture which was drawn, a heart. And we're told in the heart, it pumps water. Huh? It pumps water. It pumps blood. Abanye abantu, they don't know. And they have the heart. Now, we were told that it pumps blood. And in the early 60s, there was the notion by the Seventh-day Adventists not to agree that Jesus stays in the heart. We were skeptical of that. But as light and as the books are written and people are reading. God deals with a heart. And God wants to stay in the heart. There's a chorus which speaks about heart. Zulu. Into my heart, into my heart, come into my heart, Lord Jesus, come in today. Is today was to stay? In to stay. Come into my heart, Lord Jesus. That's the end of our sermon. You know, in your heart, when Christ is in your heart, when God is in your heart, everything is okay. Because now God, after the what you call this big rain, in English, what is it? Floods. But this was too big. This is Zulu, I love it. Means everybody was perished. Now, and God said, and the Lord smelled a sweet sour, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground, and no more for man's sake. For the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. It's Genesis 8, verse 21, and Genesis 6, verse 5. It continues. Okay, let me finish it. Neither will I again smite any more everything living as I have done. Now God repents after God has seen that he has destroyed his image, his creation, because his creation did not or is not listening to his word or commandment. Do you know? Now he says, he repents because he says, for our sake. Just imagine even now, today, when you study that story, you would see that the anger of God was so great. Just take yourself and take your heart and look at it and God's heart. And when God in his heart says, I will never, that is part of repentance from God. And surely as true as that day, God has not yet destroyed everything. But there are other people who have been punished and perished because of their stiffness and hardness of their heart. For example, Pharaoh and his troop after pursuing the children of Israel from Egypt. So, why do I come with this story or this subject? All what we are doing today, sitting in these pews, all of us, we take a decision to do or not to do. Hello? Is anybody here? Now, I thought it's a mind, but they say it's a heart. All that proceeds from the heart is evil. Hello? Is somebody there? It's going to be tough, I know. It's like a stewardship, but I feel when we deal with the heart, we make a surgery of the heart, and then we'll become the proper people. We take out that evil thing. When we are still growing, I don't know, Elder Signy, did you ever seen that picture of a big hut with all cockroaches, everything there, which is bad? Did you see that one? Aniyazi nina ngamasal, you don't believe in images, but you decide not to see it. There was all these funny animals which comes out of the hut. It was always put in other churches. I went in those churches for some time at Velkom. Now, we were scared and we were also wondering, is my hut like that hut? And there was this big man with horns and a tail, but to Satan having a fork in that hut. So, I was pleased when around 1969, when I understand that in the hut is where Jesus wants to stay. And when Jesus stays in the hut, then things, what proceed, even thinking, it's from heart. Because biologically, our body, they have different members, parts, acidic parts. Paul says it's members. Now, each part receive blood, which is pumped from the heart. Are we together? And you will sometimes feel your hand as if it's numb. There's nothing. You don't feel anything. It means blood is not flowing there. Other Christians are numb. They just come as a process because they are used to. Even if it was said, let us escape this fire, they won't run away. They will wait until they see that there is fire. Hello? Now, what I'm saying is, God gave us hearts and minds to reason and think. It is where we process all these beliefs. Do you know, people, they think when they will be ready, in the morning we heard that we cannot be ready when the problem has come. You need to practice, Oguti, when the problem comes, you are ready for the problem. Hello? Yeah. 1976, sometimes, I didn't want to talk about this, but I'll say it. Sometimes when we were caught, or the students were caught. Now, the Lord says to Samuel, but the Lord said unto Samuel, look not in the countenance, or the physical, or no height, or of his stature, because, now God says, because I have refused the first son which you have seen, which you have thought he's the one who can be anointed. Hello, are we there? It's hardcore now. Because, stewardship, it's about us, it's about you. It's not about money, it's not about your looks, but it's about your heart, what comes out there towards God's message or things that he sent you to do. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outside appearance, but God look on the heart. The problem in all what we do, in all elections we do, we say, but yamfanela, oh yes. But what about the heart, which we have never even talk about or look at or ask God that is this heart going to do and represent your commandments? Is this heart going to be a help to others? Is this heart is going to look after the well-being of the church? Now, most of the time, we sometimes take, agree, but not really agreeing to do God's work. We agree superficially, but actually we are not performing what we're supposed to do because we have left God not to enter and fix our hearts. The Psalmist 7 verse 9 says, "Oh, let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end. But establish the just." You must be just, for the righteous God trieth the heart and reigns. When I come to that, for God so loved the world, and he gave the only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in him should not perish, but have an everlasting life. Malachi has been read, Malachi has been said, memorized. We know it upside down. Corinthians, we say that a cheerful giver is from the heart. What? But we remain not giving. But we remain not doing. But we remain not going. Therefore, we remain. Our hearts just tell us, don't do it. Don't. Amidst the 3 or the 4 boys there at Babylon, there was not only 4. People who were all what you call abathunjwa lapho, they were half of a nation or more. But what had happened with the others, where they don't feature anywhere in these Babylonian story? They have succumbed to the Babylonians. They became like them. Like us today, we are politically inclined to be politicians, but Seventh-day Adventists. We have given in. We have given up somehow. We bring even that political ideologies in the church so that we become politically correct and give away God's will and his commandment. God knew that there will be ANC. He knew there will be EFF or whatever. All Inkatha Freedom Party. But when you remain, if you taken up Christianity and become Seventh-day Adventist, you need to affiliate and have solidarity in that. Serve God faithfully. We are also consumed by our work or our studies or our achievements. We work, we labor like slaves. 6 days, Tinabasha with an overdraft. When you come in church, you just finish. You are really finished. And it is what God did not want us to be, a steward. We need to be job creators than being employees. We rob God what He has given us. Intellectually, what He has given us. We rob God. First Chronicles 28, verse 9. And thou, Solomon, my son, know that the God of thy father, and served him with all the perfection of heart. That is Solomon's father. I don't know, you don't know, you know him. He served God with the perfection of his heart. And a willing mind. It means he was entrenched, rooted, inside, outside, thinking and not thinking. It was God. He was serving God. That is David. For the Lord searched all the hearts, and understanding all the imaginations of the thoughts. You know, when I took up, or when I became, or to be baptized, it was a struggle to be baptized, because I wanted to finish all what I think I need to do. But the time has caught up with me that there was this strong now conviction that when I ask myself, really, I will be able to go forward with these Bible stories and stuff, you know, the church going, the tithes, the offerings, you know, there's a lot which I was seeing. My mind was clouded. To say, by the way, can you work and after work you give somebody money? Give somebody money. And when you look at that money and your expenses and things that you need to solve monetary, you find that you are running short of money. If thou seekest him, you will find thee. But if thou forsake him, he will cast thee off, not off, off, double F, forever. If you don't want to seek God, if you don't want to help, or not help him, to obey and do his commandment, really, you are going off. You know, now, we work secretly on Sabbath, all of us, maybe. Because we are in standbys, we are on night, whatever. And we come and appear as good as ever. But a steward doesn't do that. A real steward, you become a custodian, and you obey, you do accordingly, you pay dues where they're supposed to go. As God in his heart, after he has seen that now mankind has lost it, Satan is taking over, he gave the only begotten Son, only. Tina, out of 10, we need to give 1, whatever is 1. Even if your time, stewardship of time, stewardship of what, but it's just one, you are one steward. Monday, everybody at 4 or 5 is up. everybody's running in taxis in different times. And no one reached at work late. Ageko, rather, bafika early, quarter to or 1 hour before others, to make sure that they receive or see that their subordinates, they come in time. But the very person, when comes Sabbath, I don't know, who has bewitched us? As the Sabbath school teacher was alluding to, Bob Mema, is very difficult for the people to come in time into Nzamahala. It's very difficult. Because their heart tells them, what do you gain there? What is there for you? Angithi basho njalo, politically inclined. Yeah, umsebenzi ukhona, but what is there for me? Akunjalo bazalwane? Amen. We just revive ourselves. Let's remind ourselves to understand that times are difficult and time is no more. As Isaiah 6 verse 10 says, make the heart of these people fat and make their ears heavy and shut their eyes. I take that part. There's another part. Okay, let me go forward. Do you know these stories? People were doing evil things. And God come to a point where he tells the prophet what to happen. Or the prophet asks God what to happen. When you were crying for the job, all of us, praying, when we've got job, first pay, second, third, you become a fatty, you become fat. Your heart, you do into a mangazayo, which you could not do before you have the job. You become now to say, is little. Even tell the owner of the work, you are robbing me. Meanwhile, you are robbing God when? Yes. No, I can't work for this. But you are in. You say you can't work for this. You start doing about toy for a person who gives you job. Your heart, your body becomes fat. You see them here with big tummies. They eat it nice. And God makes it so that you get astray because you don't pay or return tithe and offering. And those who got job properly and those who work for God, in their heart, they know who gave the work, who give the lives, who give the strength to go and work and wake up. Nobody mark you on the road to go for the taxi. Nobody hold you robbery, and every day you come home, you say, I'm Pumelel, and I've got money. Let me tell you, you succeed because God allows it. Amen. Do you know sometimes when I wake up at my street there, it's scared. About 4 o'clock, you find women are moving, 4 o'clock a.m., moving in a quietness. Not that they are going to work for their children. And you think to say, hey, my daughter, 4 o'clock, I'm sleeping, they are moving. Are there no sources? Are there no thugs? Do you get that? When you hear the gunshot, you say, wow, it might not be that woman or that lady who's going to fend for his children. Tina, we are protected always by God. Ever for it? That's a stewardship. Hayi le nto yenu yezemali. No, we don't talk money, we talk heart. Everything comes here or here and here. Heart plus mind proceed good things. Okay. You know, let me jump to another one for time's sake. Now, in our marriages, we start saying we love this one. Hey, hey. There comes then love this one. And somebody, poor somebody, she's caught up in my talks, which sometimes are evil, you know, not prayed for. And she starts saying, I love you too. Wow. Wow. Do you know what you love? This person has no love for God, but he can love you. And then there comes a time when he has mesmerized you, mess up with you, he say you are not compatible. You are incompatible, compatible. This is why. This is a Christian. Stand here and say, you are no longer compatible. Yeah. We become fat and our eyes are closed, waxed. Then we see other side of the fence. Can't you ask your heart, are you really truthful? What do you see there, which is not here? Okay. Because he says that they must close their eyes, they must close their mind and shut their ears. It is because least, he says here, least they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and convict and be healed. That's a secret. That's a secret. You know, Mongalaleli, you are going to get ill. You will sugar everything in your body. But in diabetics, salt, heart, depression, you fail and have a heart attack. Because you don't listen. Just simple, you don't listen. And your heart, it tells you. Even Pharaoh, his heart was hardened. Do you know, some of us who are sitting here, we might be, it's an end, long. A picture, kupaliwe the end. But when you are still coming, you think you are in it. Like Saul. Are to Saul? Do you know Saul? There was an end before he died. God said, I'm tired with you. Hopeless. He even go and consult. Hopeless. If you go and bribe, you are hopeless. If you ask for bribes, you are hopeless. Why you rob people? And you must remember, when you rob God, always you rob everybody. Because you have nothing to lose. Okay. Last part one, maybe. Hear now this. Hey, Jeremiah, it's not me. Jeremiah 5, verse 21. Hear now this, O foolish people, and without understanding, which have eyes and see not, which have ears and hear not. I'm a thought. Some of our eyes, they don't see what is needed in the house of the Lord. Some of our eyes, they don't see any need to give or to help other people. They see no need. And others, they don't hear even when we ask, there's this person, he's so poor. he needs some stuff. You can't even contribute. You can't even take a prayer you want to be prayed for, always. You tell us, or you tell yourself, your heart tells you, you've got no time. Siyasebenza, ngishayisa ngo-7. Anginasikhathi sokuyobona other people. I can't visit others. I can't go and pray for others. My schedule is hectic. Nithi niyahareza or niyahereza. Hey, abantu balahlekelwa yilungu. What the language, lingo also is gone. Not mine, yours. I don't want to say siyahereza if we are sebenza. God said work. He didn't say hereza. You know, these things, they shift our ismilo sethu sobunkulunkulu to something else, to be loved, to be acknowledged by human beings, not by God. Yasinalo iBhayibheli siyalifunda mtshana, siyalifunda iBhayibheli, but asilifundeli ukuguquka thina, sifuna ukuguqula abanye, hence it's so. No muzi story. You want to tell somebody. It's not for you. There are children who has died, who comes. There are people, they were phoning. I was asking myself, how should I contribute? I didn't know what to say, how, you know? But there were others who said, no, we want to know this thing. The school has its own cult. A cult ke moetlo nyana o mo itseng. A ke re go jalo. Oh, Basotho ke moetlo o itseng. NgesiZulu yini konje? Masiyale emakhaya siyohlaba. Senze ukuthi each year blood must flow, and God has it all, paid it all. Paid it all. When the blood flow on the cross, it's for us all. There's no need of animal blood. But khona la eSabatheni, people they go bayokhendla. Hallelujah. Ukuthi when I come, bangibone kahle. Jeremiah 17 verse 10. The Lord search the heart. I try the ruins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doing. In a true sense, when we believe, God heals us. When we trust in God, God helps us. But when we don't trust Him or in Him, we do ourselves many things. Last week, Blake, there was this question. It bothered me. That says, people are looking at people. Oh, yeah, how they dress. Ne? People are looking at people who come here, how have dressed. If they have dressed short, then what bothers you? But really, you are coming in the house of the Lord. What proceeds from your heart is what you are. When you come, or wherever you go, the way you do things, it's what you are. And I'm sorry I didn't answer last week, Big, to say, but it is because you want to be like that, and you provoke people to look at you like not them, or like not God prescribed. A person says God needs a heart, not how you dress. That heart, which cannot be able to dress when it's correctly with God? Which heart can just not, which will kill people? You kill your wife, boom, when you are not with God. Which heart Ay man, God needs a heart, it's true, needs a heart to stay in it. And that heart will proceed pure and good things. You know, we can play church. Come to church is coming, it's fine, coming. But are you real a church in you, in your life? Mina mankwatile, nobody touches me. And this has been baptized. Baptized member of the church. They are untouchable, ungovernable. You can't say anything to them. They know the Lord. They are safe. There's a book, Prophets and Kings, page 442. To the end of time, men will rise to create confusion and rebellion among those who claim to represent the representative of the truth, of the true God. There will come a time. It has arrived. It has arrived. This time, there are people who create confusion right inside anywhere where they are Christians. There's one confusion that we have in this church. It's my note. But it is my note. You know, the spacing in this church, space. The pews, it's per square meter per person in his thickness. Thickness, a full person. Now, these chairs, they carry a certain weight. If we are pushed, myself included, we pack you like you are packed in Texas. Shonale, 4 and 5. It hazardous. We break the law, and we will soon find ourselves having such. Because our respiratory system, inhaler and exhaler, we perform, there's many things that are happening whilst we're here, and we need to be steward. I thought maybe we have 2 sessions. Today is better, or it's much better. There are times where you feel, if they say, jump, puman, it will be a stampede in this church, and people will die. Are we good stewards? No. And a person comes late. Oh, in the space lab. Hey, maka space da, ekmut enkhan. Akostulo le pambili. Hey, late. And but he wants to go in. We are not. What type of a steward I am? Ngizowenzisa abantu breach the law. Hayi bazalwane. Asithi sikhonza inkonzo, but we need to be okay. Singaphuli iminyango. Do you see at the gates we have even written P, don't park. Why? You know, for some parking in interest, when you have your license, they said you must not park in an interest, and then you sign, and your fingerprint is there in your license that you will obey, but you don't obey. So endorse phakathi kwamanzi, baptize, good now, you are changing. You will not live the life of yesterday. You live a new life, but you go back to yesterday. Those who prophesy lies will encourage men to look upon sin as a light thing. Those who prophesy lies, they will make sin, but Ukuya emsebenzini ngeSabatha is not, but it's service, man, it's service. You can go and come back. Very light. To sin and come back is fine. You are telling yourself it's a heart. I don't know whether I'm telling stories. I don't know whether I'm preaching or teaching, but it's one of those. Just get the truth out of it. Do you know these days it's easy to kill a person? Even in church, to gossip. In our times, you could not gossip. You were taken to deacons because you have gossip. Not done anything, gossip. When their trouble results of their evil deeds are made manifested, they will seek, if possible, to make the one who has faithful warning them responsible of their difficulties, even as Jews charge Jeremiah with their evil fortunes. Now, it says, the one who reprimand people or who make them aware, those liars, prophets, they will make it go to you, the one who's telling truth or awakening people. They will say is the one who is making evil. And bazokushaya vote, democracy, and bazothi ejele or a court, but lose the case, meanwhile you are right, and ungene ejele, meanwhile you are right. Therefore, a steward akatholakali kulezo zinto. Are we together? You eat right, you live right. You do right, you get right things. Now, dear children of God, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? That is Jeremiah 17, verse 9. The heart is so wicked. Your own heart, my heart, I don't trust it. Alone without Jesus, I come to it with Jesus. I appeal to Jesus. This heart is very wicked. When you see something, there's wickedness somehow created. It is why we need to bind our thoughts. We need to have a breastplate. We need to have sandals. Akudlalwa, Satan is fighting. Nibona nisindile nihlezi la. Say thanks God, you are safe. Thanks God, you are here. But without Christ, dear brothers and sisters, akudlalwa. There's a song that I love. Intuba isavuliwe. Intuba isavuliwe. No, awushaya lapho. It's number 1 konje mama. Mrs. Lala, let's close. Let's close. Let's close. 10? 114. Just sing this song with your all might, putting your heart, reporting your heart to the song or to God.
Isangonge ngayamlimi ngisavulelwe nami kubonakala isisa nothando lomsindisi yeka tuba.
Just look at the thief at the cross at that time. There were two, but the one has seen an opportunity to talk to God, Jesus Christ, to say, be with me in the kingdom. As number 2, my daughter.
Isangoli savulelwe bonga baso sinde.
There's still chance for you also. There's still chance for you also.
Nezichaga nabezizwe nibonke yeka umuza gagangisa vulelwe ithuba. Mina ngishiyeli tuba.
Do you know, brothers and sisters, asisindiswa asisonke. Omunye nomunye usindiswa ngokwakhe. One. It is why akusi icala lomunye umuntu wena mongasindanga. Hallelujah. You need to give your heart to Jesus. Siphume kula ma tendencies we uyazi khona ukushelela. Mawile, you wake up, you stand up, uyazithindita. I get. You don't just fall. Uthi hayi mina I'm a lost sheep. There's no lost sheep. Christ is still giving that opportunity for us all, so that we do things accordingly. Be a steward wherever you are, a faithful one. Steward. Before you do a thing, just ask what God is saying about me. If I do this, what God will say. We are seeing ngaleyo ndlela. Please, we'll ask ukuthi senzo standard number 3. Bese sicela umama uMasango. Sicele my brother here to come and pray for us. For the second chance. For becoming the real steward of the Lord. Yebo Zulu.
Phambili makuqhubekwe isango livuliwe yamukelu musa wakhe ufumane umqhele yeka umusa gagayisa vulelwe ithuba. Mina ngishiyeli tuba.
May we kneel down as we pray. Our gracious, loving Father, who art in heaven, once more, Father, we are coming to thy throne of mercy. The first thing that, Father, we are asking is forgive us, Father, for our sins. Father, you know us from deep down our hearts. We might be seated on the chair in church, Father, but you know that we are not worthy to talk and be in front of you. Father, forgive us. Father, you know your servant has talked. He has given all what is supposed to be talked to us. He has told us that if we only give our hearts to you, you will come inside and you will be the one taking care of all the things that we are supposed to be doing. You will be directing us in the right path. We will be doing good not because we as human can do good, but because our hearts will be with you. And you will be doing miracles in us, Father. For us to be good stewards, it's not because we are in church. It's not because we come to church, but it's because of accepting Jesus Christ into our hearts. Father, we are pleading with heavens that on our own we cannot make it. May the Holy Spirit come and endue us one by one. That as we have heard the message today, may we not be the same again. As we will be going back home, may we recall all this message that have been taught to us today, that we should be able to come very close to the cross of Jesus and accept that we can live a new life with Jesus Christ. Father, as we are finishing now, Father, may you bless the one who has been blessing us, the one you have talked to through him. May you give him more knowledge that next time he can speak again. I leave all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Let us pray. Baba wethu sikhaya izulwini lalapha emhlabeni ukhona. Sithanda ukukubonga Baba. Ngalona leli thuba Nkosi usinikeze lona Baba. Ukuthi size Nkosi zokuguqa Nkosi endlini yakho Baba. Siyakubonga Baba nansi intshumayelo ethe yakhulunywa. Ikhuluma Baba ngenhliziyo Jesu. Yonke into Nkosi iqala Baba enhliziyweni Baba. Ukuzondana Baba ebandleni lakho qala enhliziyweni Jesu. Ale emini Nkosi. We like to ask you in a special way Baba. Come in Nkosi and fill our hearts with your love. Fill our hearts with your Holy Spirit Jesu. Nkosi namandla. Uyalazi Baba ibandla lakho Nkosi. Nandi liguqile Baba. Talk to us in a very special way Nkosi. Talk to us Baba. Bakhona Nkosi abangasikhulumisaniyo Nkosi. Bakhona Baba abangafuni ulandelana Nkosi. Abangeke bahambe indlela efanayo Nkosi. Kodwa in this day Baba we like to present them. We like to present us Nkosi. Talk to us. Inhliziyo zethu Nkosi azikho right Baba. Ngaphandle kokuthi wena uzongene Baba uzigcwalise Jesu. Ngeke sikwazi Baba uthanda bomkethu ngaphandle kwakho Nkosi. Sigcwalise ngawe Baba. Sigcwalise umoya wakho oyingcwele. Manje Nkosi masathi sehlukane Baba hamba nathi. Siphathisa. Phinde njalo Nkosi ujike nathi. Khuleka yonke lokhu sikhemela egameni ehlazo wephakade. Amen.
May the good Lord help us and bless us. so that the character of the fourth man in the fire may fill our hearts and help us not to bend the scroll. Let he who has an ear. With this, we've come to the end of our program. We will rise and sing the same song in closing, hymn 114.
Let's all rise. 114. Isango ngenxa yam limi. Singabe slow ne? Ihambe fast nyana. Isango 2. Isango ngenxa yam limi. Isavulelwe nami. Kubonakala isisa nothando nomsindisi yeka umusa omngaka isavulelwe ithuba mina ngishiyeli thuba isango lisavulelwe bonkabazosindiswa izicebi nezichaka nabezizwe nibonke yeka umusa ongakangisa vulelwe ithuba mina ngishiyeli thuba phambili makuqhubeke isango livuliwe yamukela umusa wakhe ufumene umqhele yeka umusa ongakayisa vulelwe ithuba mina ngishiyeli thuba yebo yakomfula isiphambano sothulwa ngithwalewo na umqhele ezulwini ngibuse yeka umusa ongakayisa vulelwe ithuba mina I'm tempted. Let's do it again. Ngishiyeli thuba. One more time, the chorus. Yeka umusa ongakayisa vulelwe ithuba mina
Let's close our eyes. Our Father who art in heaven, we thank you, Heavenly Father, for these words that you have dished to us, Heavenly Father. We thank you for the meal that you gave us today. May it build our character, Heavenly Father, so that we are changed, we are more like you. May this not remain here behind, but may these words be with us in our hearts in everywhere we go. May our character change and reflect you, and we be more like you, O Heavenly Father. This is our plea in